Hi guys, it's Arielle. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I hope you guys are all doing well. Today I'm going to be taking you to the Labor Day protest against the retirement reform, and this protest is unique in that not only is it on a public holiday, but it's the first strike where all of the unions in the country have decided to strike together. Why am I going to this protest? Obviously because I am against this reform, but more importantly, I want to stand in solidarity with the majority of French people. And to put it into perspective for you guys, 80% of French people are against the 49.3 having been used to push this reform through without a vote. 72% of French people support the protests. 64% of people in France completely reject the retirement reform. And most shockingly, 93% of working French people, so this excludes people who are retired or people who have not yet entered the workforce, 93% of people working in France are against this reform. So no matter what way you slice it, the majority of French people are against what's going on right now. Over the past few months, I have spent days worth of time researching this reform. I have watched countless interviews of economists, historians, sociologists, union members, parliament members, and there are just so many reasons that there are problems with this reform and how it's being implemented. I think if I got into them, this video would be way over an hour, and that is not the point of this video, but I did just want to share one point with you guys that really resonated with me. And this was an interview done with Pierre Rosanvallon, who is a French historian and sociologist. Basically, they were discussing Macron's view of government and the notion that legitimacy to power rests solely on the fact that he was elected. So Macron believes that because he was elected, he can take any decision he wants, he can implement anything he wants, and it's legitimate because he was elected. Pierre Rosanvallon goes on to counter this ideology by explaining that it's not enough to rely on an election every 4 years to take the people's opinion into consideration, and that a legitimate government is one that continually does this work of checking in on the people throughout the presidential mandate, whether it's through protests or petitions or unions. This act of checking in on the people and listening to what they're saying is an integral part of democracy. He goes on to say that if a government is no longer aware of reality and is no longer attentive to the people that they represent, then this government is not legitimate because they no longer have the general welfare of the people in mind. Another interesting point to this interview is when they start talking about the Roman definition of authority. And I'm going to grab my notes because I want to make sure I get it right. But basically, he talks about the Roman definition of authority, and he says that authority is the ability to make decisions and have them accepted by the people without violence, without coercion, and without indefinite argumentation. Authority belongs to the person whose words have enough truth to them that they are accepted by the people, and therefore the government doesn't need to use police force on the public mass. You don't govern by force. You govern because the authority you have has been accepted by the people. You don't govern with police. You govern because you understand society, their worries, their concerns, their passions, their assets, and their opinions. And that is what gives authority to a legitimate government. I think it says a lot about a government's intentions when they don't put in that work or effort to listen or understand the people that they represent. Voila, those are my 2 cents about the retirement reform. On with the protest, which you'll see starts off a little bit crazy because as I'm walking towards the starting point of the protest, I am literally caught in a thunderstorm. Okay, so I just started to walk down to République and thank goodness I had my umbrella. Look what we ran into. Just a complete downpour of rain. Ah! Okay, the rain looks pretty much over. Hopefully I can still join the protest. Hopefully it's still going on. As we got closer to the protest, we could hear the commotion and we could see a lot more police. It was a bit of a mess because of the rain. We were so delayed and we didn't manage to leave with the front of the protest. So we were kind of playing catch up and running all over the place to find the core group of the protest. Protest had split into two sections, and so we decided to cross over to the other section because we were trying to find the same groups that we were with last time, the ones who were singing and dancing and cheering together. The entire protest up until this point had been so calm, and I don't just mean in terms of violence or police, but also in that we weren't seeing the same amount of floats or union floats as we did last time, and I think this was for a couple reasons. First of all, we did join the protest a bit out of order, so we were having a hard time finding the main groups. I think we were more at the end of the protest and the groups that we were familiar with were a little bit closer to the front. But not just that, this was also a strike on a public holiday, so there were a lot more children and elderly people and families. So the vibe of this protest in general was a lot more calm and a lot more peaceful than the other protest had been. Anyways, as we near the final destination of this protest, which was at Nation, we started to see a little bit more vandalism, a couple fires, and a couple windows of banks that were broken, as well as bus shelters.
Macron égale police égale cocaïnomane. J'adore.
We finally got to Nation and found the singing crowds.
Macron démission! Macron démission! Macron démission! Macron démission! Et on ira jusqu'au
Then literally in the middle of the protest, like myself and the other protesters were literally walking on the protest, we got gassed by the CRS. No warning, no reason. They literally just started to gas us. And this one was a lot scarier and more painful than the gassing I had experienced in the first protest, because we were literally getting gas thrown on us. It wasn't like I was further back and it was blowing into my face like it was in the first protest. This time it was like out of thin air, gas was thrown, you just see white smoke everywhere, and immediately my eyes are crying, my throat is burning, and everyone is again scrambling to get away from the police who are gassing us. And it was very confusing to me because, again, I was with the protesters, like the main part of the protesters, the unions, you know, the people who are just there walking peacefully. It was very confusing and very scary. And I just think that was a complete abuse of power and force. Despite being gassed, the protest continued, but came to a halt when a building was set on fire, and it got very bad very fast.
En fait, il y a les couleurs là qui disent, mais la police ils ont genre le jaune et le marron. Et moi j'ai vu devant moi.
Allez, stationnez les casseroles et les cités!
At this point, the protest was definitely over. The CRS were starting to encircle everyone, and you could see them preparing to charge, and they were starting to throw gas, and we were out of there. That was it for us. We called it a day.
Ouais, il faut partir. Allez, il est temps de sortir.
On a assez fait notre petite manif.
C'est dingue de voir tout le monde.
So there we go. That was a recap of today's protest. Like I said, from where I was within the protest, it was a lot less violent and very, very calm compared to the last protest. I'm definitely annoyed that I got gassed again for absolutely no justifiable reason. So that is 2 for 2 for me. But thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and I'll see you in my next one.